I want to ask you a few questions in the context of India. I don't know how much you've been following what has been happening in India, Mr. Assange, but we've had a series of scams. Now, every time, and people in India would like to know your views on this, every time there is a scam in India, the government sort of steps in, or whoever is affected steps in and tackles that issue in what is seen to be a piecemeal way. It's more damage control. Handle one scam at a time, put it up to some process of inquiry, ensure that it is away from constant media attention. In your view, how long will this sort of approach last?
I'm not sure. When we started releasing these cables about India, we showed two things. One is what was actually in the material. So the various scandals that have come out, the relationship with the United States, the bribing in Parliament and so on. The other thing that we revealed was what the government reaction to all that was, what Prime Minister Singh's reaction to all that was, and other people. So we can see two types of information coming forth, and both of these are quite important to understand how these organisations are actually behaving. So I agree with you, the response by the government left a lot to be desired. I said before that it was clear to me that Prime Minister Singh was deliberately attempting to mislead the Indian people on what type of material this was. People tell me that he is not personally corrupt. I do not know myself. I have no information on that as to whether he is or is not. But his reaction left a lot to be desired. It wasn't to fully, frankly investigate what was going on and then provide findings to the Parliament. Rather, it was an attempt to spin the issue. And I suspect that has come from experience in dealing with similar scandals in the past. That is the way you can deal with them. You try and spin them, then you localise an investigation and a response. If we are to have a strong response from the government, it will require a strong response from media. They just have to be pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed until they see that there is an advantage in performing a proper response. And that's what will drive these people. I understand from running an institution which is constantly under attack from state actors and from critics, that you do try and put out the biggest fire first. Mm-hmm. So the absence of the Indian government to comprehensively respond does not necessarily mean that they will not, or they have all sorts of vested interests in trying to shirk the issue. A large part of it, no doubt, is that they have many fires to put out, like all big institutions. And so they simply put out the biggest fires that they can, and then they turn their consideration to the smaller ones. So if we want the Indian government to really address corruption, then it must become the central issue of the nation. So it cannot simply give these small concessions or small investigations or push something off to a parliamentary committee. And that actually seems like it may be on the cards.
Mr. Assange, everyone responded. Everyone in the government began to say just one thing. That do you expect the government of India to respond to WikiLeaks papers? Do you expect us to take these cables seriously? At the end of the day, the description was that this is just diplomatic garble. It means nothing. It is, unverifiable beyond a point. It is one person's opinion. A government cannot respond to what is seen to be, say, the opinion of one person or a conversation that is, they call it hearsay. I want to know what you sense about that kind of a response. As if this is not serious matter, it's not legally verifiable matter, and hence we don't need to respond to it. That was the response.
That was a clear attempt to mislead the Indian nation on what the cables were, and I said that at the time that I found that quite disturbing. And we have dealt with over 60 different countries in relation to things we have released, in relation to the cables we have released. And the Indian government's response was one of the worst in the world to information that was coming out. Well, the other countries that have come out have said, well, on that particular issue revealed by the cables, we say we had a defence.
Okay.
So it's not quite as bad as it seems, or we then did something else, or something like this. But there was no questioning as to whether the cables themselves were legitimate and needed to be responded to. Part of, I think, what has gone on in India is that Hillary Clinton, back in December, went around to many countries, including India, and said, look, certain things may be coming out. Here's how I want you to respond to them. And what Hillary was doing, and what the State Department has been doing, is saying, we refuse to confirm or deny them, we won't talk about leaked things ever.
Yep.
And I suspect that the Indian government, rather foolishly, when the cables came out, decided that they would try and ape her and play her line, which has been very unsuccessful in the United States as a way of responding to the material. And other countries, to their credit, have not decided to go down the line recommended by Hillary in refusing to talk about anything that was in a cable, but rather have, fully engage with what the allegations were. And that's what the Indian government needs to do, fully engage what the allegations are. These cables have not been questioned at all. There's ongoing prosecutions, in fact, into us, into an alleged source, Bradley Manning, FBI investigations, a CIA task force, etc. The best journalists in the world have worked on this material and published thousands of articles on it. So there's no doubt that what's in the cables is correct to the degree that that is what American diplomats wrote, and that is what they sent back to Washington.
Mr. Assange, when you say that Hillary Clinton went around, is this just your assessment? Is this just, you're connecting the dots there?
Oh, no,
do you have some information that Hillary Clinton could have coached the Indian government preemptively about what their response should be?
I have read that Hillary Clinton, members of the State Department, did in fact approach the Indian government in December. And we know that they were doing that with dozens of governments. And these large governments received phone calls either from Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, or Joseph Biden, who in the State Department spoke to the Indian government. I'm not sure about this, but I understand that it is admitted that the Indian government was approached by the United States back in December.